Good morning, I'm John Kynaston and this is episode 37 of my vlogs Love Ultras. I'm continuing with my countdown for the Northern Traverse. It's now Sunday the 29th of April 2018, which means that next Saturday is the 5th of May and it'll be 1 week before the Northern Traverse. So as I record this, it's less than 2 weeks away to the start of the Northern Traverse race. Which I'm so looking forward to. This week I decided to have a medium week. My plan was to have an easy week after my last recce weekend, and then this week to have a sort of medium week. So basically I ran 4 times. Monday I did my run around Pollock Park at lunchtime, which I enjoy, and it was the fastest one I've done all year, so that was quite encouraging, and I felt pretty good. Tuesday I had an easy day, didn't run. Wednesday I did an easy road run at lunchtime, and then on Thursday I decided to do my Ben Lomond run, and my good friend Johnny Rowan decided to ask him would he join me, and he was more than happy, so we had a great time. Now we've done that route in about 1 hour 40. That was being our best a few years ago, but Johnny's not been running so much, and I said to him, look, I was more interested in the company and having someone to go with rather than doing it on my own. And so we were quite happy to take our time, and so it took us 2 hours 38. Took us about 1 hour and 38 to get up. Normally if we were really pushing it, we can do it in about just over 1 hour and 10, 1 hour and 15. And on the way down, well, Johnny can do it in around about 35 minutes. It only takes me about 40, 45, but we took about 1 hour getting down. But it was great, and it was really, really windy on the top. We were almost blown off our feet a few times, and we both just enjoyed the challenge. So that was great. And it was funny, I got a text from Johnny the next day, and he said, if you could see me now walking downstairs, and I must admit I could feel my quads a bit as well a couple of days later, so that was good. But that's good, it's 2 weeks before the race, so that gives those muscles a chance to adapt and hopefully strengthen after that run. And then yesterday I couldn't run because Katrina and myself, we went marshalling for the Highland Fling. And we were up at 3:15, so that was good training for the Northern Traverse. We left the house at 3:45. We arrived at Mulgai at 4:15, and our first duty was to organise the long-term car park. So cars would arrive in, and we put them into the car park at the rugby club, and then for about 1 hour and a half. And it was great just to chat to runners as they arrived. Some were very, very nervous, first time they were doing an ultra of that length. And it was great to see people. And then we wandered over to the start at 6 o'clock, saw them all leave, went to have a bit of breakfast, and then we drove to Inversnaid, which is the checkpoint at 34 miles. And we basically were there from 8:30 till about 4 o'clock. And the first runner came through about 10:10, and the last runner left about 4 o'clock. But it was great. We had a great team, and we really enjoyed working together and looking after the runners as they came through the checkpoint. We had 1 or 2 that had to DNF, mainly, well, all through injuries, but we got them back to the start or the finish, so we were able to look after them as well. So we had a great day. Got home about 6ish, had some tea, watched a bit of telly, and then we're in bed just after 10. And then this afternoon we're busy with the family, so I decided I would do my run this morning. So I was up at 6:15 and running by 6:45, and I did my almost 12 miles up on the Braes. Beautiful morning, so that was really good fun. So this week I've ran 32 miles and really enjoyed it. Couple of things that I've done in preparation for the race this week. The first one is to get a Manx SIM card. One of the things that James Thurlow suggested, and also Andy Cole, that was one of his tips, is that if you buy a pay-as-you-go Manx a SIM card from the Isle of Man, it treats the UK as a foreign country, so it roams around and it finds the best signal. And Andy said it's really good, and I used it yesterday actually at Inversnaid when I was struggling to get a reception with my Vodafone, and that was brilliant. So that's all set up, so I've got a new number, and I just carry a very cheap Samsung phone, so that will be in there, and I'll update the race website so they've got my current, or my running number as it were, on there. And then the other thing that arrived yesterday was a parcel in this lovely pink bag. And again, on the Facebook Northern Traverse page, there's a few people commenting on the colour of the envelope, so it's good. But what was inside was the important thing, and James Thurlow has provided for us maps. So these are 1 to 25,000 maps and 1 to 50,000 maps. So the route is there. There was 1 or 2 things that he was trying to sort out, particularly going over the A1 and into Danby Wisk. So we've just confirmed the route, so it's on there. And now I must admit, I'm not going to carry these. I really like the Harvey map, and I'm going to use the Harvey map. But what I am going to do over the next couple of weeks is make sure that I transfer the exact route from these maps onto my Harvey map, and also my trace for my watch. The first one I did from St. Bees to Shap is okay, and the one from Danby Wisk to the end is okay, but the one in the middle I need to redo because there's a couple of changes there. So again, I'll do that in the next couple of weeks and have that ready for my watch. But these maps are brilliant, and it's got all the feed stations, it's got all the exact locations of where the feed stations are, and also when they're open, when the cut-offs are. So I'm going to transfer that information onto my maps and onto the bits of my sort of splits that I carry. So it'll be there. But thank you so much, James, for those maps. That's really helpful, and it'll be great to be able to see those. Now, for the rest of this little vlog this week, I decided I would give 5 tips to myself really about the race. So I recorded this on Friday, so I'll mention the fact that we're doing the fling tomorrow, but obviously it was yesterday now. But I thought about 5 things, top tips for me. And I recognise that they are for me, and I've done them for myself, but I would imagine hopefully they'll be helpful for others as well. And you might have other top tips, and if you want to share those, that would be great. It'd be interesting to hear what other people see as their priorities. But I've just shared 5 things which I'm going to try and keep in mind that will help me in the Northern Traverse race. Over the past few days, I've been thinking about what tips I would give myself for this race, and so I've decided to come up with 5 top tips that I'm going to try and remember for myself. And again, if this helps anybody else, that's a bonus, but these are things that I want to tell myself and I want to remind myself as I go through this race. And the first top tip I've given myself is to run my own race. I think one of the dangers in ultra running is that because it is such a friendly sport and people run with each other, and I love that and I love part of that, but the danger of it, I feel for me, is that you can sometimes get sucked into running with someone at a different pace. And so I think a race this length and my plan, it's really important that I run my own race. Now, I really hope that I do get to run with people. I hope that there's someone else who's going a similar pace to me for different sections of the race, and I end up running with people and getting to know new people and running with people that I know. People like John Steele, I hope that I get a chance to run with John for a while. People like Karen Nash, I hope that I get to run with Karen. And there's others as well that I know who are doing the race, and new people I don't know yet, and I look forward to having a chance to run with them. But the key thing is that I'm going to try and make sure I run my own race. I run at my pace, and I'd imagine particularly early on I might end up being on my own because I want to run at the pace that I want to run at. I think sometimes if you run with people and they're running just slightly faster than you, you feel, oh, I need to keep up with them. And then you end up running 5-10 miles even at a pace which is not for you. So my first tip for myself is to run my own race and to make sure that I just try and be honest to myself in a sense and run at the pace that I want to run at, and make sure that I don't get caught up with running with other people. So as I said, I hope that I do get a chance to run with people, but I'm going to make sure it's almost on my terms. Now that may sound a little selfish, but I think you have to be in a race like this. You have to run at the pace which is comfortable for you, and I say I'm really hoping that there will be times when people will catch me or I'll catch them and we'll end up running together. And I found that works really well, because if I'm going through a low point and someone catches me and I'm able just to sort of raise my level a little bit and run with them, it'll get you through a rougher patch, and I hope that I can do that for others as well. My second tip that I put down is that I have a plan, but I need to be flexible. And if you've been following these vlogs, then you'll realize that I do like to plan, and I've got all my mini splits, I've got all my idea of my sleep strategy is all planned out. Same with food. I'm going to try and eat at certain places, and all that's in my plan. But I need to be flexible, and that's a really important point for me, because there have been times, particularly on the West Highland Way, I can think of several occasions when, say I'm 2 miles out of a checkpoint, and I look at my splits and I think, oh, I need to up the pace a little bit to reach my target, and I end up pushing for that 1.5 miles, 2 miles into the checkpoint, and I make it, and I think, yeah, I've made the checkpoint in on time. But then it takes me half an hour, 40 minutes to recover afterwards. And if I'd only got into the checkpoint a minute or two slower, and I wouldn't have to recover the same way, and I probably would be further down the track later on. So I've got to be careful with that. And my mini splits are guides rather than the gospel I have to follow. And so I've got my plan, but I need to be flexible, and I want to be flexible. James Stewart has been doing some training tips with us for the West Highland Way podcast that I do, and he was talking about the importance of what if, of planning what might happen. And that's certainly something I've been doing over the last while, and I will be doing over the next couple of weeks, thinking about what if things go wrong, if I get more tired than I think I need to, if I get a blister, if I'm not eating very well, if I'm struggling for whatever reason, what will I do in that situation? And so I need to be flexible. And I think that's true of any race, but a race that's going to take 3-4 days, you've got to be flexible. And so I've got my plan, but I'm going to be flexible, and I'm going to say, well, okay, if this is not working quite so well, I need to ditch it. And it might be that I just ditch completely my plan and just say, well, it's not working, I just need to do the best that I can and keep moving. So we'll see. But I've got my plan, which I'm happy with, but I'm going to be flexible, and I might need to adjust and change it as the race goes on. The third tip I've put down is to look after myself. When I spoke to Andy Cole the first time about this race, and I asked for some tips from him, I think it was one of the first things that he said was, you've got to look after yourself. For example, tomorrow it's the Highland Fling, and Katrina and myself are going to be marshalling at Inversnaid, which we're looking forward to. But in a race like the Fling, if you get a blister at 20-30 miles, the temptation is to say, oh, I'm not going to deal with this because I've only got another 20 miles to go, and I can do it with a bit of pay and just sort of dig in and get it done. Same with food. You know, if you're not eating and you've only got 15 miles to go, you've got enough reserves to be able to finish the race. And so there's a number of things on a race, even of 53 miles, that's going to take 9, 10, 11 hours, whatever. I'm able to sort of just make do and get through with a race like that, but not with the Northern Traverse. And that's one of the things that I realised, that I've really got to look after myself. So after 30 miles, if I've got a hot spot and on my foot and there's a blister developing, if I have to take 5-10 minutes to stop, even in the middle of a leg, which I don't normally like to do, but if I need to stop and take my shoes and socks off and put a plaster on to deal with that so that it doesn't get any worse, I need to do that. So looking after myself is really important. Food is another important aspect of this race. If you're going to be going for 3 days, you can't just rely on what you've got in your body, your fat reserves. You really need to be eating and sort of making sure I do that. So I'm going to make sure that I look after myself and make sure that I'm eating, make sure I'm drinking, make sure I'm dealing with any issues as they occur, and not letting them get worse. Because if you do allow a blister to develop and get worse, that could be a game changer. It could be a race stopper. If you don't eat enough and you get into the second day and you completely bonk and run out of energy, it takes a long time to recover from that. So you're adding time on, or again, it could be a race stopper. So looking after myself is going to be my third top tip to myself. The fourth one is to do things immediately. When I ran with James and Stephen a few weeks ago on the last leg of the Northern Traverse, we had a great run from Lion Inn to Robin Hood's Bay, and I'd never met either of the guys before properly, and we chatted the whole time, and I was really interested to get some thoughts from them, especially Stephen, who's done the West Highland Way 5 times. He's done the Spine 3 times, which is a really tough race in winter, and I asked him for some tips and he gave me a number of little good ideas, but the one that really stuck in my mind that I'm gonna put down as my number 4 is to do things immediately. And one of the things that Stephen said, that on a race like the Spine or the Northern Traverse, you need to deal with things as they happen and don't waste energy. So for example, you're running along and it starts to rain and it's only a little drizzle at first, and you think, oh, should I stop and put my coat on? I'll wait and I'll see if it gets any worse. And then you wait 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and in that 10 or 15 minutes you get quite wet because it's been drizzling, but not strong enough to feel as though you need to put your coat on. And that's something which I am guilty of in the past. I hate stopping to put my coat on, so I tend to put it on as late as possible. But what Stephen said was, when you think of something, do it. So if it looks as though it's going to be raining and it's going to drizzling, stop. Get your coat on, put it on, and then you don't waste any nervous energy thinking about whether I should do it or not. If it gets a bit cold and you think your hands are getting cold and you think, oh, maybe I should put my gloves on, put them on. If you're thinking you need to drink, drink. If you need to go for a wee, stop and have a wee. Don't wait, because if you wait for 10, 15 minutes for any of these things, then you're just wasting energy. And it said it's amazing, just over the course of a race that takes 3, 4, 5 days, 7 days for the Spine, if you can deal with things as they occur, then again it's going to help you in the long run. So that's my tip number 4, to do things immediately. When I think about something, I'm going to deal with it and do it. And then the 5th one that I've put down is to enjoy. And I do this because I love doing it. And I got into ultra running in 2007, and I thought at that stage I wasn't going to be able to run much more. I had this long-term calf injury that was troubling me for about 1.5 years, and eventually I got some physio help, I got some insoles made, and I suddenly started running pain-free again. And that's when I heard about the West Highland Way, and I got into ultra running thinking I'd just do it once, but here I am 12 years later, still loving ultras. And basically I love the ultra races. I love being out in the countryside, I love being out on the routes. I'm so looking forward to doing this route from St. Bees across the Robin Hood's Bay, and I want to enjoy it. And I think particularly this year, having had the injury last year where I couldn't run for 4 months and I missed 3 races that I'd planned to do, I had to DNF on the West Highland Way. And so I've come back this year with an even more determination to enjoy it, because I'm able to run again. And so I really want to enjoy this race. I'm not saying I'm going to be smiling the whole of the 3 days or how long it takes me, but I do want to enjoy it, and I do want to smile as much as possible. I've been reading a couple of places or listening to a couple of podcasts that talked about the importance of smiling in a race. And if you're basically happy and enjoying something, you're going to take less energy and it's going to give you more of a boost. So I'm going to make sure that I thank every spectator that I see, every marshal particularly, and make sure I sort of thank them and smile and make sure I'm enjoying it. Because I think if I can enjoy the race, I'm going to have a better race anyway and a better experience. So if you come across me in the race and I'm being a bit grumpy and I'm not smiling, just remind me that I need to smile and I need to enjoy it, because I do feel the more I enjoy it, the better I'll do in this race. So they're my 5 top tips for myself. I want to run my own race, I want to have a plan but be flexible, I want to look after myself, I want to do things immediately, and I want to enjoy it. So they're my tips for me, and hopefully they might be helpful for others too. Well, I hope you enjoyed that little top tips, and as I said, if you've got any tips that you want to share, then it'd be good to put them on the Northern Traverse Facebook page or on my blog, on my page, and it'd be good to share some thoughts if you've got some ideas as well. Now, I'm officially in taper mode now. These next 2 weeks leading up to the race, I'm just going to taper down. And what I like to do on a taper is just run every other day. So I ran today, which is Sunday. So basically I'm going to run on Tuesday and do about an easy 5 miles. I'm going to run Thursday, again an easy 5 miles. Saturday I'll go up on the Braes, but I won't do my full route. I'll do maybe an 8-mile loop, and again just nice and comfortable. Hopefully Katrina will come with me and we'll just have a nice sort of run up on the Braes. And then Monday will be my last run. And I've decided normally if I do a race on a Saturday I might do a Wednesday run as well, but unless I feel differently at the moment, I think if I run on Monday and then I'm just going to not run Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then I'll be ready for Saturday. On the Wednesday I might go for a walk at lunchtime, maybe just stretch my legs a little bit, and maybe the same on Thursday. But at the moment I think I'm going to do my last run on Monday lunchtime, and then that will give me 4 days just to chill out. I'll make sure I drink a lot, make sure I just keep on top of things, and then I'll be ready for the race on Saturday. Now there's only 1 week to go in this race, but I've decided I will do one more little countdown, and that'll do that next weekend. And I just wanted to reflect on the last 18 weeks really. I'm going to share some of my thoughts of the training block that I've done this 18 weeks, give you some stats of how many miles I've run and how I've prepared for the race. And I thought I would just finish with that, with my sort of final look back over this 18 weeks. So if you're doing the race in a couple of weeks time, then I hope you're feeling good and confident and ready and looking forward to starting. And I hope you have a nice taper and you don't get too many niggles and you don't get too many things in your head thinking, oh, this is not going to be right, whatever. But you'll be ready for the race on 9 o'clock on the 12th of May. Speak to you next week.